So hi, Alex and Brittany. My name is Robin, and I'm the curriculum manager here. My job entails I work with the design team to come up with all the robotics designs. I'm kind of in charge of coordinating, testing all of our projects with groups of kids here in Brooklyn before they get sent out. And I do a lot of franchise support in terms of figuring out when it makes sense to use which projects when, what curriculums to use depending on age groups, style of classes, things like that. Um, Everything to do with the actual robots themselves and the building and decorating them is kind of my world here. So I've been with Robot Foundry for almost 3 years now. I consider myself to be like a pretty artsy person, which is kind of how I got into this design area. My hobbies include like sewing, crafting, puzzles, putting things together, all things that kind of right up the alley of building robots. I also love biking, being outside, camping, things like that. And my background is in uh, like sculptural art and child development. I do a lot of work also with like pedagogy at this company, thinking about how we're teaching, what we're teaching, and how to train teachers. So just to give kind of an overview of like the breadth of curriculum we have uh, what we call like a year of curriculum for a kid is 40 robots. So that's enough to go through basically like September to June, a whole school year where they're doing a different unique robot every week. So we have like a full year of curriculum that starts at like 2, 3 years old and goes all the way up till middle school. This slide is a little confusing, but this is kind of showing like all these bubbles would be within 1 year, how many different projects there are. So we have a year of robot builders, which is like our first and second grade, one of inventors, one of coders. There would be like a different whole year worth of robots for every year. And uh, it's not to get too much into the whole number of them, but we have enough different unique years of each of the curriculum that a child could go from basically like pre-K through 8th grade. It ends up being 9 different unique years. So if a kid started when they were in pre-K, they could go all the way up through to middle school and never repeat a project. So we have like a huge number of robots. I think it's nearing 600. We also have robots that are like specific for summer camp or for like spring break, full day school sessions, for field trips, birthday parties, things like that. And those kind of also span all the different age groups. So it's really like a huge number of different projects that we do. When we are thinking about and designing the projects and how we're coming up with the curriculum, we're thinking about a lot of different things. So a lot of our robot designers are also teachers who do testing of the projects here in Brooklyn. So they have a lot of experience with what works for kids, what kids like. When they're thinking about projects, they have all of that experience actually building these projects with the kids to work on when they're coming up with new things. So we're thinking about projects that we know are age appropriate. So this means, excuse me, right there, both age appropriate in terms of like what motor skills different age groups have. So what a kindergartner is able to do is really different than what a 6th grader is able to do, but also age appropriate in terms of what kinds of things they're into. So a cute little bunny rabbit might be really great for a kindergartner or a 1st grader, but a 5th grader might be a little bit like, I don't want something cute. I want something that's a little more like a cool toy or something that flies or is like more interactive or interesting to play with. Um, so we're thinking about what works best for what age groups. We're also thinking about making projects that are a kid can do on their own, but they're still challenging. So we don't want a kid to breeze through these projects and have them be really easy. We want them to feel challenged so they're really growing and learning their skills. So when it says guaranteed success eventually, that kind of means we want kids to have parts where they're really struggling with them and really trying to like learn while they're going. And then at the end of the class, once they're finished, we want them to still have made this project and feel proud of their work. So the projects are, we like them to be really whimsical. We always say when we're making a new project, if it makes us laugh, that's probably a pretty good sign that's going to test well. So we want things that are silly, that are interesting, that are really open-ended. We really like it when the kids are taking all of the parts that we give them and kind of building their own thing or doing their own thing with them. Like ideally the kids are building these robot projects and feeling inspired and starting to kind of really come up with their own ideas. I also work really closely with the production department. So that's the group of people here who they package up all the kits and order all of the parts and get all of the like physical components ready. So there's a lot of constraints to when we're designing a robot, like making sure it's within budget, that it can be packed up and shipped like safely without everything falling apart, and in a bag that fits in a box without being huge or heavy or something like that. That the project will fit in a backpack at the end of the day, things like that. So we're kind of thinking about all these different things when we're designing projects.
Do you source all of the stuff from the US?
It's kind of from all over the place. We source from the US, from China, from Canada. We have a lot of different, a lot of the parts we have kind of like multiple sources for. So the woman who's in charge of the production department, her name is Jana, and she is really good at finding and sourcing kind of things that are both high quality and really affordable for us.
Right. Thanks.
Um, so in addition to the robot projects, and I'm going to show you some of those in a minute, so you'll get an idea what those are like. We have a lot of other resources for teachers and for teaching too. So we have, for our youngest age group, we have a whole book of stories that go along with the robot projects. So it's like a storybook where when the kid comes in for the class, first they're reading a story about a kid and their robot friend who go on an adventure and are inspired to make a robot project. And then after they read the story, they get to build that same project that the kid in the storybook did. We also have what we call modules. So in a full day session, in addition to building a robot, we also have like specific craft projects that use a lot of our same components. So the kids are still getting to practice using a screwdriver or doing some of those skills with their hands. So we have kind of a lot of other different kinds of projects or activities besides just the robots too. We also have like a ton of resources and guides for our teachers for games to play, things that are fun to do in free time, like how to work with kids in downtime, or if a kid finishes early or something like that. So we have like a ton of teacher resources for how to work with the kids too. And I'm going to show you a couple of robots. So I pulled out 3 that are different age groups, and I'll use different parts. This is an example of a robot that I think a kid decorated this one, these big googly eyes. So this is a lamp robot. This is one that's for kind of our younger age group. So it's like a pretty simple build. There's a lot of room for decorating. This one has this cool LED inside of it that the kids are really into. That would be like an example of a light project, a lantern they could hold with them. This is one that would be like a little bit more advanced. So this is a robot that rolls along and it has this flag wave. This would be a little bit of a slightly older kid, like older middle elementary school. So it has like a couple more complicated parts. It uses this kind of interesting piece called a gearbox. And then as an example of like an older, kind of our oldest age group, this is a robot that's like a spinning wheel. When you pull down this lever, it spins and then it will select something. So this one has like a lot of room for decorating. The circuit that's on it is a little bit more complex. It uses this kind of interesting kind of switch called a tilt switch. The build has a lot more kind of mechanical components in it. So as the projects get older, they get a little bit kind of more complex, but they're using, they all use a lot of kind of similar parts in different ways. So we use these like popsicle sticks. We use the same kind of wood in a lot of our projects. You can see these like yellow wheels are used. So a lot of it is like designing all these different kind of projects using the constraints of having the same parts. And part of that is that the kids, eventually after they've built a little bit with us, they can kind of get the hang of what are all the different ways that they can use these parts and start being inspired to build their own stuff. So that's kind of my overview of my job and what I do and what the design team here does. Um, I don't know if Alex, if you have any questions or anything else you're curious about or want to hear about.
Sure. I mean, I guess I'm just interested in terms of, how people select which robots to do for, which different classes. Is there kind of a sequence in
Yeah.
terms of, getting more skillful so you get more difficult robots, or are they all kind of one-off projects, or do you have like sort of multi-stage uh, robots as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the like difficulty level is kind of broken down by age group because we found that kids will come in at any point in the school year. Like it's not like every kid is starting in September and ending in June.
Right.
A school will reach out and they'll want you to come just for the winter for like a 4 week period or something like that. So they get older within the age groups, but within like a year of curriculum, like a year for a first grader, um, it's not like a variation where it's getting from easiest to hardest. It's more like there's variation in terms of um, week to week, they're getting a really different variety of components, or they're getting 1 week a project that has a more complicated circuit. The next week, it's a more complicated build. The week after that, it's something that's like really more creative. Like there's more of a decorating component, something like that. So there's a lot of variation kind of within them, but the the arc of like getting difficult goes as you get older, basically. And then in terms of how you like choose which ones go when, there's like a set curriculum for a school year. So on the week of September 10th, every franchise is running the same project for the same age group. So all the kindergartners all across all of our franchises are running the same project. All the third graders are doing the same project. All the fifth graders are doing the same project. And that's in part so that the franchisees can kind of support each other if there's things that are coming up with the build. But mostly it's for our production department because they're creating, like the thousands of robot kits every week. It helps them a lot in terms of both sourcing parts and being able to actually manufacture the kits. Um, if they're doing, all of one kit this week and the next kit the next week and the next kit the next week. So for the school year, it's a pretty set curriculum. And then for things like birthday parties or field trips that come up kind of whenever they come up, there's like a couple different robots to choose from. And all of those you would keep as like a backstock in your office. So you're able to pull them out and you have a little bit more choice to which ones you're using when. But you have all of those kind of ready to go at any time.
Got it. And what's the I guess what's the kind of the problem rate, or how do you look at that in terms of when either the robots go wrong or there's something wrong with the kits? How do you kind of deal with the quality control and that aspect of it?
Yeah. So in terms of like what the design is like, as I said, we like test them on kids in Brooklyn first. So we'll test them amongst our design team. And if we think it's going to be fun, then it will move on to our local kids. And then we get feedback and we'll revise the designs based on that. In terms of like parts being broken or missing, the production department also has a quality assurance system that they use. So all of the kits are checked to make sure that they have they're like checked in batches to make sure that a batch has all the right parts in it. Um, it's pretty rare that something's missing, but of course they're made by humans, so sometimes that does happen. So we also have both in your franchise office, you have like a wall system that has all of the parts that you need. So if something was missing that you were able to catch before a class, you have enough parts that you could pull out the missing screws or the missing batteries or whatever it is and bring them with you. And then like the last fail safe is in each of our classes, the teachers have like a big kind of like rolling utility cart that they bring with them to the schools. So if you were in a city, you would probably keep it at the school. If you're living somewhere more like suburban or rural, the franchises tend to have each teacher will keep one in their car if they're driving around. So that cart, it's like a smaller version of the wall system. It's a rolling cart that has a smaller number of all the parts you would need. So if something was missing from a kit or broke during the class, you have backups of everything.
And how long does it typically take to train your teachers on these different robots? Obviously, some of them are simpler than others, but to have an understanding of all the different ones, does that take a lot of time, or are there any difficulties there?
Yeah, that's a great question. It doesn't really take that much time. We always say we teach it to like kindergartners, so it doesn't it doesn't usually take that long for a grown-up to pick it up. Um, the we have like a pretty specific teacher interviewing process. So when you're interviewing and hiring your teachers, you're already kind of looking for people that are good at building with their hands, who kind of have like an instinct for how to put things together. Um, the the teaching them all of the components and how to build the robots and what that looks like, probably within a week they can pick it up more or less. And we have like a set of instructional slides for every single robot. So when they get a new robot, they before the class they'll have time to build like basically an example, and look through it and make sure they know how to do it before they go to the class and teach it. But it's kind of like once you've built 10 of the robots as an adult, you can pick up how to build any of the other ones really quickly. The bigger part of training a teacher is like getting somebody really comfortable with classroom management. That's often the thing that will take a little more time, is like shadowing and learning how to teach the lessons. Usually a teacher, like an assistant teacher, would be able to start kind of on their own after a week. Somebody who is a lead teacher in a classroom, it might take 3 weeks until they were ready to really go off on their own and teach.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Mhm.
And how many kind of new robot designs do you add each year? I mean, 600 sounds like you've got a lot in terms of inventory of projects.
Yeah, so we have about 600 projects, and that's like the 9 full years of curriculum. So we're less at this point adding on more additional years, as we are like revising projects that, as franchises are running them, we're finding need a little bit of tweaking or need kind of a replacement. And then we're more finding like new verticals. So we have some franchises who are interested in running like classes for adults or for kind of like specific populations, or to, like a zoo residency or something where it's all animal robots, things like that. So I'm not sure what the rate exactly is, but we're always coming up with new projects and revising new projects.
Okay, thanks. And I guess, what do you think are the biggest pain points for you or for the business?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I think I am kind of in charge of a really specific part of the business, so I don't see as much of like I guess like the the quote unquote business side of things, right? I'm really kind of focused in on this micro part, which is like the projects and how they're being taught. I think one of the biggest pain points that I see in that is teachers often have it can be hard to uh we're running these classes where we want kids to feel really free to be doing whatever they want with these parts and experimenting with them and trying new things. And I think that can be hard for teachers to sometimes pick up, like um, how to manage a classroom where the style of teaching is letting the kids kind of do whatever they want with these parts. So kind of finding the balance of like, okay, how do you like facilitate a kid getting to be really creative and doing something that's like potentially really challenging, like making their vision come to life, and how to find the balance of like helping them do that successfully while also letting them struggle a little bit so they can really learn from what they're doing. So I think some of that like teacher classroom management is it's like one of the biggest pain points that I see and work with, is like figuring out how to support teachers and facilitating all of that. But we do have like a ton of kind of resources for teachers and trainings and things like that for how to do it. But when you get your hands on actually being in the classroom, I think it can be a bit of a learning curve.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
I can't think of any other questions right now, but that was interesting to see some of that. Thank you.
And Brittany and Jenny, I'm not sure who you've been mostly in touch with at this point, if anybody. but Jenny really knows a lot too about the kind of design side of stuff. So if you think about any more questions, about the curriculum or the projects or anything like that, she'll definitely have the answers.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thanks for your time, Robyn.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robyn. Before we let you go, I just wanted to see, is there anything else that you just wanted to share with Alex or anything like that? Any final words of wisdom you'd like to bestow upon us?
Not that I can think of. I this is kind of an exciting time of year. We have a lot of people really interested in franchising in the spring usually. So I'm glad that you're interested. I think it's a really great company to be a part of. It's been wonderful for me, and I hope you continue on because I think it's a really great community to be a part of. That's my last words.
Thank you, Robyn. And I believe that when people are coming for sneak peeks or for Discovery Day, are you there as well to be met with in person?
Yeah, definitely. So for a sneak peek, I'll do like a kind of more expansive curriculum overview. So you'll get to see and talk more with me about kind of like the breadth of different projects and what they look like for different ages. And we can talk more about like teacher training and stuff like that too. But yeah, I usually sit with people for like an hour during a sneak peek and really kind of talk through the projects and the hands-on parts a bit more. And you'll get to play with a lot of robots too.
The best part. Awesome. Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Robyn, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share information with us. We really appreciate it. Alex, like Robyn was saying, I just want to reiterate, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Jenny about them and we can get you more of those answers. Otherwise, we will talk to everyone later. Thank you guys so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.